Okay, this might be a bit of a hot take. I'm gonna say it anyway. James works phenomenally as an 060, maybe even better than a 260. Oh, you don't believe me? Okay, just take a look at this edit then. Oh, you still don't believe me? Okay, you still won't budge. Well, what about this beauty of a model inspired by such and built by the legend TrainStorm 1225? You don't got much to say anymore, do ya? You know, ever since I commissioned TrainStorm for that smaller TVS-styled Percy, I just knew I'd have to swing back around eventually for my favorite character. TV series accurate modeling isn't something I've actually, well, gotten the hang of or really into until recently though. And to be fair, if we have a tiny Percy, we need a tiny someone else to go with him, don't we? Well, why not the best character in all of Thomas and Friends? But before we get into this model, let's try and answer the obvious why. You know, why exactly is this James an 060 and not his usual 260 self? Swagger, that's really it. It's just swag. No, really there isn't anything wrong with the original 260 configuration James has, but I've also always felt it's a bit weird. You know, it's not the most typical thing you'd see on any locomotive, a 260 configuration. This is just me speaking from preference, but when I think of a middle-sized tender engine, I always think of an 060 or something kind of like that. Okay, and maybe I just like smaller engines anyway. Oh, and it turns out it's Railway Series accurate, so take that, purists. So with the inspiration from finding this edit, I asked TrainStorm to work his magic. Now, this guy was built in a similar fashion to Percy. These both were made using Gauge 1 files by Jamos Trains. Now, as you'd expect, those are scaled down to 00 and made to fit on much smaller chassis. And speaking of chassis, it just so happens James sits on a Thomas one. You see, in the process of building this thing, the Pachman parts store didn't have the James chassis, so we just kind of went with what was available to us, that being the Thomas chassis. And to be fair, I don't think it looks that bad, at least in my opinion. Hell, I still may design a new chassis altogether just to make sure it lines up with the splashers perfectly, but that's for later. Once that was worked out, James was on his way to completion, and here's how that looked. This James model uses vinyl decaling over water slide decaling, which in 00 scale is a bit thick, but to me, it still feels kinda prop-like, and also is a testament to the infinite amount of skill TrainStorm has. He occasionally sadly suffers with tremors, and even still, managed to get this lining to look this accurate and this clean. I'm sorry, I couldn't even dream of doing this. The vinyl just makes it a bit easier for him, and again, to me, it feels like I'm holding a tiny prop when I look at it. And as we can see here from these pictures, he did not stop there. I mean, this model got everything from separately fitted handrails to a brass whistle, a cab interior. I'm sorry, Bachmann could literally never. They will literally never. This is untouchable. He went above and beyond every step of the way. Now, James was completed very quickly and made his way to me soon after, but as is usually the case with any shipping services nowadays, of course when he made it, there was a couple issues. So this time James arrives to me with a completely broken tinder connection. Oh, and his motor housing was completely messed up as well. You see, TrainStorm 3D printed him a completely new one to make it a bit smaller, and yeah, that had just gotten knocked out in the shipping process. Yeah, there was a lot to do. I hate shipping. Did I mention that? I really do not like shipping services nowadays. So as you'd expect, and as you do, I took the rest of the day to focus on the model and make sure that was all remedied. I'm happy to report that all was very quickly fixed, but I'd still like to go back to the tinder connection. You know, as you can see here, it's a bit messy, and I think I can hide that pretty easily. You know, say for example, some coal spills out from the cab that the fireman's shoveling in. There's plenty of details I could throw there to fix that. I just still have to do it. Let's see, I also fit 3 links to both sides, that being on the locomotive and tinder. Now, I did end up adding quite a bit of weight to the body itself. You see, in the rebuilding process, and I guess in the knock he took, he developed a bit of a tick in his running, and I'm not sure if this video shows it too well, but yeah, he liked to come off the tracks pretty commonly. Not to mention most of his weight was in the backside anyway, so I took as much random weights as I could, threw it in the body, and now he runs like a dream. I haven't seen the problem since. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I had what I think is the perfect James model. It's unique, it's accurate, it's just a little bit cursed, but it's also just a little tiny engine who just so happens to wear it so well. You know, I don't care, straight up, this has to be my favorite model in my entire collection. And again, it is all thanks to TrainStorm 1225. I simply commissioned the model, was inspired, did some very minor stuff, but he's the one who deserves any and all real credit for literally everything you see here, through and through. And I cannot thank him enough for the James model I genuinely didn't think was possible to own. For the longest time, I thought I was just gonna have to buy a Bachmann James, cut it up, and hope I could do what he did. With just a little bit of time and 3D printing, he made that dream come true. So basically, from now on, expect a very angry, very little, red-painted and almost red-faced locomotive to be pretty commonplace on the new layout, if not in every video. Oh, yeah, the in-scale guy. My bad. You know, funny story. UPS broke him 3 times when it was shipped to me. Yes, 3 separate times that body arrived to me busted because of UPS. And after that, if I'm honest, it may still happen, but I don't really know. That same chassis could make any number of 009 engines. Plus the 00 scale James is just, that's unbeatable anyways, so we'll see, but I don't really know. Alright, enough of that. Enough of the talking and seeing just how good he looks. Exactly how well does James handle these rails? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to report, with the most style.
Either subscribe, donate, or get the fuck out.